Hello, this is Nick from Breaker Press Games, and today we're going to talk about the tenets of Grimdark play when I run games of Dungeon Crawl Classics. Alright, before I get into my bit of judge's advice for running Grimdark games, first and foremost, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and watch the video all the way to the end. It is a huge benefit in the algorithms. Additionally, I've mentioned in the last couple of videos, my 50th birthday is coming up, and I would love to get to 500 subscribers. It is a hard ask. It is only 2 weeks away at this point, and I didn't record a lot of videos this month, but if you could subscribe and get us closer to that 500 mark, that would be fantastic. Additionally, if you'd like to support Breaker Press Games by making a purchase, you can go to the Breaker Press web store, to the Goodman Games web store, to Exalted Funeral, or to Noble Knight Games. All of those places offer physical Breaker Press content. Additionally, you can purchase PDFs from the Goodman Games web store, from DriveThruRPG, and itch.io. All of those locations should be linked in the doobly-doo. And then finally, if you would like to support in a greater way, you can become a Patreon member. As a patron, you get something cool. As a patron at $5 and above, you get something cool in the mail every month. The August reward was the Balladeer class. I did a whole video on that right here that you can check out. Yeah, there are still 5 or 6 copies left, and I would love to send them out to someone. The reward that is going to be sent out for the month of September is very similar to the Around the Common Fire pamphlet that I did. It includes a dozen NPCs, but the ones in the outlying farms of Stennard, which is going to be the next pamphlet, they are all different farm owners and their families and what have you. And then the backside is actually a bunch of different drawings of different little maps of farmsteads, so that you can random roll what each of their farms looks like. So that will be done, I hope, next week. So yeah, become a Patreon member. And by becoming a patron, I am, I believe, 4 people away from 50 patrons. And it would be awesome to have 50 patrons by my 50th birthday. So go check that out. Get something in the mail every month, $5 and above. I would appreciate that. You'd be doing me a huge solid. Okay, so let's talk about Grimdark play. These are the things that I emphasize to give my games a grimdark tone. Now, you will notice I'm going to point out that some of these things are literally straight out of the DCC rulebook, but aren't necessarily emphasized unless you read, because everybody focuses in on the gonzo elements when they talk about Dungeon Crawl Classics. And when I read the DCC rulebook judge's advice, I took all this other stuff away from it that I was like, yeah, this resonates with me because it is so dark and mysterious, and life is cheap, and those were the things that I focused in on. So that the whole you're no hero vibe. So let's talk about what I do in my games. This is actually, I'm going to be pulling these bullet points from an article that I wrote 2 years ago. Yeah, roughly 2 years ago, that I wrote for what will eventually become Rabid Dogs Volume 2, which will probably be Zine Quest 5? Be my submission for Zine Quest 5 in 2024. So, let's talk about these things. Tenets of Grimdark play for judges. First and foremost, humanity is the greatest monster. So, in the article, I say, despite the machinations of the pantheon of patrons, their power is still derived from their followers. Chaos and evil are manifestations of the choices we make. We are not victims of chaos. We are the agents of chaos. And that is all about understanding that by creating a human-centric world where humanity actually is the corrupting influence, where humanity kind of is the taint with the decisions that they make. You are setting things up in order to create lots of hard choices. There is a great thread that started on DCC Rocks today where a... was it Chris Janik, I think, was talking about dilemmas and the idea of, instead of setting up situations with, just, going in and killing the monster, creating these situations where these dilemmas, where the PCs have to make a choice between 2 or 3 different options that none of them might be the right choice. All of them could be ones that are just different shades of gray. And that is a really great way to create really engaging play and also set up that grimdark feel. So leading off from humanity is the greatest monster, all people are flawed. So what does this mean? Even those characters that do not embody chaos will make bad decisions. We all make bad decisions, right? Most people have a hierarchy around their loyalties that will often favor family over friends, friends over neighbors, and neighbors over strangers. We see this every day in our lives, not to get political, but when you look at things going on in politics and the corruption and things that happen, you will notice that a lot of times choices are made because people are protecting their family or what have you. The PCs should be put, and the NPCs should be put in situations very similar to that. And you just watch to see what sort of decisions they are going to make and how it's going to play out. But the idea is, generally speaking, regardless of law, neutrality, or chaos, create NPCs that largely put their wants and needs first. And that is going to ultimately set up situations that are going to create that grimdark tone. Next, life is cheap and people are desperate. So, this world is a cruel place, and the PC should understand that they are vulnerable, one misstep away from crippling injury or death. Roll dice in the open, let them fall where they may, never give any NPC or PC plot armor. And I add in, NPCs should all have someone that loves or is loyal to them, and any NPC with power should have someone waiting to fill the vacuum that they will leave behind. This is something that is really, really important for setting up that tone and also creating stakes so that every action that the PCs take, they hire somebody to basically push out in front of the party. They're like, oh, this is our hired mercenary, and that mercenary gets killed. Well, what's their brother up to now? What are they going to do when they find out that the PCs basically led their brother to their death? Did they leave a note behind saying that we went and got hired by this group of people? Did they talk to them the night before they ended up meeting their demise? These are things that set up great opportunities for role play and also great opportunities for grimdark role play. Let's talk about prestige and power are the province of others. What is this all about? Money, power, and prestige are granted by birth or are taken by the clever and the cruel. Though your players may seek to play that game, they should never start out with the full benefits of station. So, like the occupation table that I use from Standard Courier Volume 1, as well as, it's in Rabid Dogs Volume 1 and in the Standard Character Creation Guide. My occupation table, there's only a handful of occupations, the noble, a trader, I think there's something else that will give the PCs some degree of wealth to start off with. You definitely don't want to have a party that is full of players like that, because you want there to be this sense of desperation. And as soon as you give them all the money that they need to buy all the things that they want, to never be hungry, to be able to hire NPCs to push out in front of the hirelings to push out in the front of the party, they are not going to want. They are not going to be desperate. They are not going to be concerned. And you want them to feel all of those things. Prestige and power are the province of others. Okay, next. This one is straight out of the DCC rulebook. The known world is small and dangerous, and I am going to eventually record a video. I already have the script written. I recorded it twice, actually more than twice, and I wasn't happy with the results. I'm going to record it again. I wasn't all fired up like I am right now. But that being said, most people stay close to home to avoid the predations of bandits, charlatans, and monsters. As self-centered and capricious as their neighbors may be, they are still a known quantity. The world beyond the roads or trails the PCs and NPCs have traveled are considered dangerous and by all counts live up to their reputation, ensure that travel has risk. You will notice that most of my publications have some sort of encounter table. I basically, for every couple of hours of travel, I make sure to roll on this chart. If they roll a 6, then there is an encounter, and we roll to see what the encounter is. Not all encounters on the road are malicious. I set up my encounter tables so that there are beneficial encounters, neutral encounters, and malicious encounters. But ultimately, there should always be that tension that as they are traveling the roads, something bad can happen. And that is why most people stay close to home, huddled and with their families. So, emphasize that. That's going to create that grimdark tone. And as I said, that's straight out of the DCC rulebook. Keep magic and monsters mysterious. That's another one straight out of the DCC judge's advice. The horrors that the PCs face should be unnamed until they name them. The magic that they cast should not conform to a predictable list of knowable abilities. Your players should not be able to control magic with 100% certainty any more than they can control physics, nor should they be able to have a catalog of knowable monsters. I don't ever want to see you play a game where there's a goblin. You'll notice that the Precipice of Corruption, I've got these creatures that cut off their own eyelids called no-lids. You know, pretty obvious. Why are they called no-lids? Because people saw them and they're like, there's no lids. But ultimately, the idea is that, essentially, if you look at the stats, they're roughly goblins. They're not actually goblins. They don't speak goblin. But ultimately, the idea is I created a humanoid that was similar to a goblin, but was unique to Stennard and my setting. You should always strive to create unique monsters, create unique spells where you can, and create these dynamics where these things are mysterious and unknowable. So, we do not need to reinvent the wheel every session, but we should reskin monsters and spells to maintain a constant sense of fear and wonder. So that's what that's all about. All right. Magic is feared and wizards are hated. I ran into a session pretty early on in the pandemic where one of my PCs, goes out to you, Darren Bolton, one of my PCs cast a choking cloud, and he did spellburn in order to jack it up a little, and ended up killing everybody in the Old Barn Tavern. Except for one of his friends and initially Candace Keykeeper from the Protectorate of Genulane. As she was crawling away, he moved the cloud over her to make sure that she died as well. Yes, because going back to tenet number 1, humanity is the greatest monster. Darren Bolton, in that moment, you are the greatest monster. But that being said, the idea is that you want to, after I experienced it, I realized that wizards are awful. And everybody should understand that wizards are awful. And that there should be this dynamic where if they are using their spell abilities in public, there are going to be witch hunters, people with pitchforks. There are going to be all sorts of people that are going to be terrified and will only feel safe once that wizard is dead. And so, whether it's a wizard or the upcoming elementalist class or a wood witch, all of these things, these should be feared and hated. All right, next. This one, when I reread this after writing this 2 years ago and rereading it a couple of days ago, it made me chuckle out loud. Hope is a carrot on a stick. A Grimdark setting must be sprinkled with hope. In a Grimdark setting, survival is its own reward, sure, but hope is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Allow the players to revel in their successes, but the judge should understand that each success is a gateway to greater loss. Yeah. This time I'm the monster, not you, Darren. It's me. So, that being said, what that's about is making sure that you give your PCs, give your players those moments of respite, of hope, of feeling like they won the day, just to take it out from under them again in the next session. So yeah, hope is a carrot on a stick. Next, leading off of that, escalate tension. The more successful the PCs are, the greater the resistance against them should be. As thwarted villains reassess their approach, rival parties and jealous factions will seek to undermine their actions, and everyone from forgotten relatives to greedy guild lords and politicians will try to capitalize on their success. Even the gods may seek to manipulate them for their own ends. Standard, I have a lot of like petty gods, like demigod level elemental beings and things like that. But yes, the idea is that as the PCs rise in power, so should the threats, and also the needy hands that are coming to them for help. If the PCs. There was a perfect example where my PCs ended up deciding to they were trying to bring light back to the Church of Delvere, the Temple of Delvere, and so they go to the Old Barn Tavern and they end up buying a big pot of stew and they take it and they start ladling it out to all of the starving people of Stennard, and then suddenly there's a mob scene where everybody's got their hands out. Yes. Sometimes I feel like a monster when I set up dilemmas like that, but it makes for a really tense session. I definitely witnessed one of my players, Logan, a couple of weeks ago, in a moment where there was a refugee crisis happening in the town of Stennard, and there were all these PCs. Surrounded by all of these townspeople, and there were tax collectors, and everything was tense, and I could see his brain going like I had put him into a managerial exercise that I would have experienced at Games Workshop, where they were like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, how do you handle it? And I could see his brain just going. There definitely was a moment where he was like trying to process how he was going to handle it, but it made for great role playing and a very tense moment. And afterwards, when the tension was released, you could see everybody take a sigh of relief until I did it to them again. So yeah, that being said, escalate tension. Visceral vulnerabilities. This is the final point. Moral gray area and realism are hallmarks of Grimdark. This means injecting set pieces and stakes that make people feel something in their gut that inspires them to act. Saving a child has greater stakes than saving a magic doll, and saving an anthropomorphized magic doll has greater stakes than saving a magic sword. You do want to still create MacGuffins like that from time to time. You want to give people that respite from all of the grim dark every once in a while. But ultimately, when you create these situations where they, like Desperation to the Hungry, where I set up a dynamic where they want to save the Mutt Wrangler's dogs. This is the Mutt Wrangler's livelihood. You also want to save the lives of the dogs, and there's these poachers that want to steal the dogs and eat them. Yes, you want to create stakes. Not dog steaks, just steaks, with an AKES. You want to create these situations where the PCs are inspired to act. But there's a very important thing, because if you've watched Game of Thrones, they definitely create stakes where everything is they take it up a notch that is going to be uncomfortable for your players. Do not do graphic depictions of torture or anything like that. Do that stuff off screen. It is enough to say that, so-and-so got tortured, or this person is probably being tortured, and you don't need to get into the specifics. But yeah, though you might have players that would embrace that sort of thing, don't do it. So yeah, let their brains fill in the blanks. So, but yes, you can use themes of ritual sacrifice, cannibalism, body horror, and desecration, but there is a line. Grimdark is not for everyone. Some things are best kept vague and off-screen and will get the same effect. So that, my friends, are my 10 tenets of Grimdark play. I hope you got something out of it. I know that I've been running this current group for a year now. We are at almost a year now. It'll be a year in November. We're on session 24, I think, is tomorrow, and they have been loving it. It has created lots of challenges and exciting situations. But yeah, that is how I run my game. Yeah, I hope you get something of it. Thank you for supporting indie games and indie game designers. Sorry, my brain got a little confused at the end here. I am just excited to tell you about stuff. Next video is going to be in 2 days and is going to be another Breaker Bulletin. Everything that's going on with Breaker Press games in the month of September going into October. You guys have a wonderful couple of days, and I will talk to you again soon.